Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. You stand on the threshold of one such place now, a house settled deep in forgotten time, where the air itself seems to hold its breath, thick with secrets whispered only to the dust. We'll explore the corners the light doesn't reach, listen for the sounds that shouldn't exist, and feel the cold that has nothing to do with the weather outside. The narrator is merely the one recounting the descent, a voice from the edge of the strange, sharing what was seen and heard when the veil thinned and the house began to speak. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. You are settling into the quiet routine of your new, older home. Each day unfolds against a backdrop of settling wood and creaking joists, the air hanging heavy and still. It carries the persistent, earthy scent of damp stone and long, undisturbed dust, a constant, cloying reminder of the house's considerable age and the lives that have passed within its walls. Tonight, the house seems particularly hushed, the usual symphony of age, silenced by an unnatural stillness. You are in the small tiled bathroom, a room where the air feels even heavier, cooler, carrying a faint metallic tang from the old pipes. The water has been off for several minutes now, dripping sounds long ceased. A faint noise draws your attention, a low gurgle from the drain in the sink, a sound that seems too deliberate for mere plumbing. It's almost imperceptible at first, easily mistaken for the house settling deeper into its foundation. But it's followed by something else, a soft exhalation, like a breath released into the dark cavity. You dismiss it, just old plumbing, trapped air finally escaping. It's just an old house, you tell yourself. A rational explanation ready on your tongue. You glance quickly at the small, age-clouded mirror above the sink. Your reflection is slightly warped in the uneven glass, the dim light from the single fixture casting strange shadows that seem to shift and pool just outside the glass, defying the simple rules of illumination. A brief, inexplicable chill skitters across your skin, raising goose flesh on your arms. You shiver, turning away, shaking off the sudden cold. But then it comes again, clearer this time. Undeniable. Not a gurgle, not air. A distinct sound, pulled from the wet, black dark of the pipe's maw. A whisper. And this time, it sounds unmistakably like your name, drawn out in a slow, sibilant hiss. It curls around the silent room, intimate and utterly unnerving, a violation of the quiet. You stare at the porcelain drain, a dark circle leading into an unknown depth. The air grows colder still, the chill deepening beyond mere draft. From the corner of your eye, a shadow seems to detach itself from the wall beside the door, a fleeting movement at the edge of vision. But when you snap your head around, nothing is there. Only your distorted reflection in the cloudy mirror stares back, the figure in the glass looking back at you with an expression you don't quite recognize, laced with dawning fear. The silence that follows the whisper feels deeper, heavier, pressing in from all sides, holding its breath alongside you. The heavy silence wraps around you like a shroud. You back away slowly from the sink, from the dark circle of the drain, the spot where your name seemed to bloom from the abyss. The chill doesn't dissipate, it clings to your skin, sinking deep into your bones. Leaving the bathroom offers no immediate relief. The air outside feels thin and brittle, as if the house is holding its collective breath, listening. Downstairs, the familiar shapes of your furniture seem alien under the low light filtering through the old windows. You try to lose yourself in mundane tasks, making tea, settling on the sofa, anything to ground yourself in the tangible. But the image of the drain lingers behind your eyes, and the sound, or the echo of it, seems to hum just beneath the threshold of hearing, a phantom vibration in the quiet. Rationalization becomes a desperate mantra, repeated silently, uselessly. Old house, settling, wind in the pipes, anything but what you heard. You pull out your phone, fingers clumsy, searching forums for old house noises, drain sounds, pipe gurgling. The words on the screen blur, meaningless against the stark reality you just faced. The logical explanations offered feel flimsy, inadequate against the stark memory of that whisper. The chilling clarity of your name being uttered by something unseen. Later that evening, perhaps while reading or simply staring into the middle distance, lost in thought, it happens again. Note from the bathroom this time. It seems to come from the kitchen sink drain, or perhaps even the floor drain in the basement laundry room below you. The house is utterly still. No water running anywhere, no appliance humming. Yet a low gurgle, softer this time, less like water, more like a throat clearing deep underground. Then the soft expulsion of air, and the whisper. Your name again. Louder now, more insistent, though still soft, as if spoken directly into your ear from miles away. A voice carried on unseen currents within the walls. You freeze, heart hammering against your ribs, a cold knot tightening in your gut. It's impossible. You are nowhere near a drain, yet the sound is undeniable, resonating within the core of the quiet house. You stand rigid, listening, a primal fear prickling the back of your neck, urging you to flee. You force yourself to walk towards the kitchen, drawn by a morbid curiosity you can't suppress, pulled by an invisible thread. Approaching the sink, you lean down, peering into the dark maw of the drain. It smells faintly of stagnant water and something else, something sour and earthy, like upturned soil. You see nothing but the glint of old metal far down, a spiral of unknown depth. But as you stare, the smooth chrome faucet handle above the sink seems to momentarily blur, its polished surface reflecting the kitchen light in a distorted, swirling pattern that doesn't make sense, like oil on water. For a fraction of a second, the reflection seems to contain movement, something indistinct writhing just beneath the surface, a tangle of pale limbs. You blink, and it's gone. Just the normal reflection of the kitchen light. But the whisper feels closer now, just beneath the floorboards, just behind the walls, echoing the faint sound from the drain. It seems to question your presence here, a silent, insidious query that burrows deep into your mind, chilling you far more than the cold. Are you meant to be here? The air is suddenly heavy with the scent of damp earth, stronger than before, thick and suffocating. The nights become thin and stretched, filled with the constant, low hum that precedes the whisper. It is no longer confined to the drains. It seems to seep from the walls, the floorboards, even the dark spaces beneath the furniture. A pervasive sonic mist. The sound is soft, insidious, weaving itself into the fabric of the house's old noises, indistinguishable at times from the groaning wood or the rustling of unseen things in the attic. Sometimes it calls your name, a drawn-out, testing sound, gauging your reaction. Other times, It offers single words, fragments that make no sense in isolation, yet feel heavy with meaning. Down, it hisses from below your feet. Watch, it breathes from the corners. Wait, it sighs from the darkness beyond the windows. Sleep offers no escape. Dreams are fractured, filled with images of stagnant water, echoing whispers, and the unsettling feeling of being pulled downwards into darkness, struggling for air. You spend hours just listening, sitting perfectly still, trying to pinpoint the source, mapping the strange geography of the sound within the house, charting the territory of the uncanny. Your rational mind fights a losing battle against the creeping certainty that you are not alone, that something ancient and patient shares this space, an entity speaking to you through the very bones of the structure, using the house as its voice. The recurring visual distortions worsen, becoming more frequent, more insistent. Windows at night reflect the room inside, but the reflections are subtly wrong. Furniture is shifted from where you know it is. A door is open in the reflection that you know is closed. Or a figure stands just at the edge of the glass, always vanishing when you turn your head fully towards it. But it is the bathroom mirror that holds the deepest unease. Its cloudy surface, once merely distorting reality slightly, now seems to possess a strange, active depth. Staring into it, trying to make sense of your own reflection, you sometimes catch glimpses of a space beyond the glass, a dark, watery place filled with shifting shadows. Or worse, your own reflection seems to look back, not with your expression, but with something cold, ancient, and utterly unfamiliar in its eyes, an intelligence observing you. One evening, as you stand before the mirror, lost in a haze of sleep deprivation and fear, the whispering starts again, just behind you, seeming to emanate from the wall itself, from the pipes hidden within. Look closer, it breathes, soft and urging, a terrible invitation. You lean towards the glass, compelled, your reflection leaning with you. But the reflection's eyes seem fixed, not on your own, but slightly past your shoulder, staring at something you cannot see in the room. A ripple seems to pass across the surface of the mirror, like water disturbed by a stone dropped into a still pool. For a moment, your reflection smiles, a slow, wide smile that pulls at the corners of its mouth in an unnatural way, stretching too far, revealing too many teeth within the dim reflection. It is not your smile. The scent of damp earth is overpowering, thick and suffocating in the small room, like being buried alive. You stumble back, heart pounding, the image of that wrong smile seared into your mind, a violation of your own image. The whisper chuckles, a wet, gurgling sound from the drain that echoes the smile in the glass, confirming its shared nature. You can no longer distinguish between what you see and what the house wants you to see. Between your reality and the one pressing in. Is this real? Or has the house simply become a reflection of your own unraveling mind, a canvas for your fear? The whispering is no longer just background noise. It is a constant companion, a presence that occupies the silent spaces, breathing down your neck. The fragmented words coalesce, forming chillingly clear instructions, always delivered in that soft, wet hiss, tinged with a hunger you are beginning to understand. Open. It urges from the floorboards beneath your trembling feet. Let it flow. It hisses from the walls near the plumbing, a seductive promise of release or revelation. The house feels different now, charged with an unseen energy, electric with anticipation, waiting. The air is thick, difficult to draw into your lungs, tasting of copper and cold stone, heavy with the weight of something immense gathering just out of sight. Every shadow seems deeper, pooling in corners with an unnatural density that feels almost solid. You find yourself drawn back to the bathroom, compelled by a morbid fascination that has overridden your fear. A sense of inevitability guiding your steps. The small, tiled room seems colder than the rest of the house, the air thick with the familiar scent of damp earth and the faint, metallic tang of old water, and something else, something vital and strange. Standing before the sink, the drain seems to pulse with a faint, internal light that is not light at all, but a startling lack of shadow, a deeper blackness within the black. The whisper is loud here, seeming to rise directly from the porcelain opening, a chorus of soft, wet voices intertwining, a symphony of the submerged. Turn the tap. They breathe together, an almost irresistible command, a key unlocking a door you know should remain shut. Your hand trembles uncontrollably, hovering over the cold chrome faucet, slick with condensation in the chilled air. The mirror above the sink seems darker now, the glass surface swirling with faint, shifting patterns like disturbed water, growing more agitated. You glimpse movement within its depth, not your reflection, but something else, something occupying the space behind the glass. Long, pale shapes shifting in murky, green-tinged water, like tangled roots or submerged limbs, reaching slowly towards the surface of the glass, testing the barrier. The reflection of the room is still there, distorted by the old glass. But behind it, beneath it, is this dark, submerged space, a world inverted. The whispers intensify, growing urgent, pleading, then demanding, their individual voices merging into a single, terrifying will. Let us see. You hesitate for a moment, paralyzed, fear warring with a profound, terrifying curiosity that feels less like your own thought and more like an infection. What lies behind the glass, in the dark water of the drain? What wants to see you so badly it uses the house as its mouth? Against every instinct of self-preservation, against the frantic pounding of your heart, against the chilling knowledge of what this means, your hand moves. You reach for the faucet, cold metal slick under your trembling fingers, pulled by an unseen force stronger than your own will. The voices surge, a wave of relief and anticipation washing from the drain, filling the room with their wet, joyful sound as you prepare to obey. The question hangs in the heavy air, suffocating and demanding, echoing from the glass and the drain. Whose reflection are you becoming? Your fingers close around the cold metal of the faucet handle. It feels heavier than it should, slick and somehow yielding, like old bone beneath your touch. A low groan echoes from deep within the pipes behind the wall as you turn the handle, a sound of immense weight shifting. Water doesn't gush out in a clear stream. Instead, it begins to weep from the tap, thick and sluggish, the color of old ink or deep, disturbing mud dredged from the bottom of a lightless lake. It smells not of damp earth anymore, but of something stagnant, ancient, and deeply wrong. A smell like decay and forgotten time, of things long submerged and finally rising. The thick, unnatural water flows slowly towards the drain, pooling in the bottom of the sink, like spilled shadow. The drain itself seems to exhale, a moist, deep sound, like air escaping a pressurized cavity. And the whisper surges again, no longer just individual voices, but a collective presence in the room, thick and suffocating, pressing in on all sides. As the black water swirls towards the drain, drawn by an unseen current, the mirror above the sink flares with an internal, sickly green light, pulsing with a life of its own. The swirling patterns on the glass intensify, resolving into a horrifying clarity. You see them now, fully formed within the reflection's depth, no longer indistinct shapes. Not shapes, but figures. Pale, elongated forms, their limbs like tangled roots stretching and writhing, their bodies indistinct and shifting in the murky green light of that submerged space behind the glass. They press against the glass from the other side, their presence distorting the reflection of the room. Faces featureless, save for hollow indents where eyes might be, and wide, gaping mouths that seem to form the source of the echoing whispers and the gurgling sound. Their movement is slow, deliberate, their distorted reflections stretching and flowing like the black water in the sink, connected somehow. One of them reaches a pale, indistinct hand towards the glass, a gesture of obscene invitation. And in your own reflection, you see your hand rise simultaneously, mimicking the movement against your will, a puppet on unseen strings. A wave of pure panic washes over you, sharp and cold, a freezing flood. This is not delusion, not sleep deprivation, not a trick of the light or a stressed mind. This is real, pressing against the thin barrier between worlds, seeking purchase. The cold from the drain intensifies, not just air, but a palpable presence emanating from the dark water and the reaching figures in the glass, filling the room with an unnatural chill. The boundary feels thin, permeable, threatening to break. You stare at the hand in your reflection, the one that isn't entirely yours, and the faces pressing against the mirror, their silent, gaping mouths screaming into the glass, their hunger visible. You are trapped between the flowing black water and the active terror in the glass, the house itself humming with dark life, holding you fast. Is this what it means to be seen? The sickening surge of panic breaks like a wave crashing against a shore, leaving you breathless and trembling. The figures pressing against the glass begin to recede, their pale forms pulling back into the murky green depth of the mirror, shrinking away from the surface. The sickly light within the glass fades, leaving behind only the age-clouded surface, reflecting the room again, but subtly wrong, as if the colors have been leached out. The black water in the sink stops weeping from the tap, pooling stagnant for a moment, before slowly, reluctantly, gurgling its way down the drain with a final, wet sigh, a sound of disappointed withdrawal. The intense cold lessens, leaving behind a deep, pervasive chill that feels like it has sunk into the very stone of the house, a residue that will not fade. You are left standing in the silent bathroom, trembling, the smell of decay and stagnant water heavy in the air, clinging to your clothes, your skin. The house feels empty now, the intense presence of moments ago gone, leaving behind a vast, aching quiet. But it is not the quiet you knew before, the peaceful silence of an old house settling. This silence is watchful, heavy with the memory of what transpired, the air humming with residual energy. The bathroom mirror hangs innocuously on the wall, its surface still cloudy, still distorting your reflection. But now, you cannot look at yourself in that glass without seeing, just at the edge of vision, the phantom press of pale limbs, the stretch of two wide mouths, ghost images lingering beneath the surface. You glance away quickly, unable to bear the sight of your own face staring back from that glass, wondering with a profound dread if it truly is your face anymore, or just another surface for something else to look through. The fear remains, a tight knot in your stomach, a constant tremor beneath your skin, a knowledge etched into your bones. You know with a chilling certainty that this was not a one-time event. Whatever lies beneath, in the dark, wet places of the house, in the depths behind the glass, it has seen you now. It has reached for you, and it knows your name. You leave the bathroom, moving through the house like a ghost in your own life. Every creak of the floorboards, every shift of shadow, a terrifying reminder. The silence is heavy with anticipation, waiting for the next whisper. The air still carries that faint, earthy tang, that metallic bite. The mirrors seem a little darker, a little deeper than they did before, holding secrets just out of sight. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. This house, settled on a quiet street, felt like any other. Just walls and rooms and the echo of mundane living. But sounds have ways of finding cracks, of seeping through the veneer of the normal. You first noticed it as a faint whisper, a sound that seemed to hold your name, emanating not from the air, but from somewhere lower, somewhere damp and dark. The kitchen sink drain. A ridiculous thought, of course. Drains don't speak. Yet, the sound persisted, just at the edge of hearing, a phantom murmur that faded when you leaned closer, only to return when you turned away. It started small, an anomaly easily dismissed, a trick of old pipes or tired ears. But the house began to listen with you, its silence growing heavier. The familiar sounds of settling wood and distant traffic seeming to hold their breath whenever the drain offered its soft, impossible greeting. A prickle of unease, a sense that the house was larger than it seemed, that its spaces held secrets far deeper than architectural plans could ever reveal. A house can feel less like a shelter and more like a skin you are trapped inside. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The whispers from the kitchen drain became bolder, no longer shy and fleeting. They followed you, seemed to weave through the very structure of the house, only to coalesce again, undeniably, from the bathroom sink drain. It was louder here, closer. The simple sound of your name morphed into fragments of speech, a low, incessant murmuring that rode beneath the normal hum of the refrigerator and the distant traffic outside. It was like static given voice, like a forgotten radio station broadcasting only nonsense and dread. You found yourself drawn to the bathroom, spending unreasonable lengths of time there, leaning over the porcelain basin, a morbid curiosity warring with a cold, sharp fear. The air in the small room felt wrong. It was thick and heavy, colder than the rest of the house, even with the heating running full tilt. An acrid, metallic smell often hung in the air, the scent of old, stagnant water, deep and unsettling. Your eyes traced the rust stains spreading like dark veins around the drain opening, marks that seemed to deepen and darken each day. The quality of the whispering itself was specific, unnerving, not harsh, but wet, guttural, as if gargled through mud. The drain itself became a point of fixation. Sometimes, without any water running, it would gurgle violently, a sick, wet sound that made you jump back. Other times, running water from the tap would fluctuate erratically, surging with sudden pressure, then dropping to a weak trickle, as if something was interfering, breathing heavily in the pipes. The psychological break deepened. The initial unease curdled into a gnawing paranoia. You felt watched, constantly, specifically from the direction of the drain. Every creak of the house, every shadow cast by the landing light through the open door, seemed to originate from that small, dark hole. The mirror over the sink, too, seemed to participate in this quiet assault. When you glanced up, you sometimes saw fleeting movements in its reflection that weren't present in the room itself. A flicker of shadow, a ripple in the background that vanished when you turned your head. Your own reflection began to look subtly off, the smile not quite reaching the eyes, the stance a little too rigid, like a poorly copied image struggling to maintain its form. You started checking the drain more often, peering into its black opening as if searching for answers, an obsession taking root. Near the bathroom wall shared with the outside, a persistent damp patch appeared, a dark stain that refused to dry, clinging to the plaster like a bruise. It felt cool and strangely slick to the touch. Was it the house weeping, or something else pushing its way through? Perhaps the reflection was tired of mimicking. The murmuring from the drain didn't just stay in the bathroom. It followed you now, a faint, buzzing presence just outside the threshold of hearing. It clung to your awareness like a persistent fly, only solidifying back into fragmented whispers when you returned to the damp, cold air of the bathroom. The metallic scent was stronger too, almost overpowering, like pennies mixed with decay. The rust stains around the drain seemed to writhe in your peripheral vision, shifting patterns when you weren't looking directly. The drain's gurgling became more frequent, more desperate, sounding less like water and more like choked breathing. One evening, you watched as the water in the sink, left running, swirled towards the drain, not in a smooth vortex, but with unnatural hesitation, as if encountering resistance from below. Then it reversed slightly, a tiny wave pushing up from the drain, before quickly sinking back down. This was no trick of pressure. It felt deliberate, a gentle push back against the flow of reality. The paranoia tightened its grip, evolving into a constant state of hypervigilance. You flinched at sudden noises, imagined shapes in the corners of rooms, your gaze always returning to the bathroom door. The drain wasn't just watching, it was waiting, expecting. The mirror became a source of profound dread. The fleeting movements behind your reflection were clearer now. Not just shadows, but hints of form, indistinct but there, lurking just behind your own image. Your reflection wasn't just off anymore. It felt separate, adversarial. Sometimes, its eyes seemed to track something else in the room, something you couldn't see. Other times, its smile felt mocking, stretched too wide. Wrong. You started avoiding the mirror, covering it with a towel, but you felt its presence behind the cloth, a cold, silent weight. The obsession with the drain deepened, becoming an almost ritualistic need to check on it, to listen, to somehow understand. The damp patch near the wall had grown, spreading like a dark map across the plaster, cool and unsettlingly moist to the touch. its borders seeming to shift when you weren't looking. It felt wrong, deeply wrong, like a wound the house couldn't heal. How much of this room belongs to you? The drain was quieter now, the frantic gurgling less common, replaced by a steady, low hum that vibrated subtly through the floorboards. The whispering, however, had changed. It wasn't fragmented speech anymore, but a single elongated tone, low and resonant, like a cello string pulled too tight. It seemed to fill the bathroom, pressing in on your ears. The metallic smell was thicker, almost tasting of copper and something foul. You noticed tiny dark particles sometimes clinging to the porcelain around the drain edge, like fine grit or dried sediment, even after cleaning. The supernatural element escalated with the water itself. Running the bath, the water was often unnaturally warm, almost hot, regardless of the tap setting. More disturbing, on several occasions, the water emerging from the faucet was not clear, but faintly cloudy, with a strange, oily sheen on its surface that dissipated slowly. It felt wrong, too heavy, clinging to your skin. The psychological toll was immense. The paranoia was a suffocating blanket, making sleep a fractured landscape of nightmares where drains opened into vast, dark spaces and reflections reached out with distorted hands. You were losing the fight against it, retreating inward, jumpy and withdrawn. The mirror, even covered, felt like a palpable presence. You started seeing its reflection in other surfaces, in dark windows at night, in polished tabletops, fleeting glimpses of that wrong, watchful face just at the edge of vision. Your own reflection in the bathroom, whenever you dared uncover the mirror, looked gaunt, eyes wide with fear, like a stranger peering out from behind your features. It was no longer just like you, it was you, but a version seen through a distorting lens, burdened by something you couldn't grasp. The obsession with the drain felt less like curiosity and more like compulsion, a need to appease it, to understand what it wanted. The damp patch had spread noticeably, now reaching towards the mirror wall, the plaster softening under its relentless moisture. It felt cold, unnaturally cold, and sometimes pressed close. You thought you could feel a faint vibration emanating from deep within the wall, a counterpart to the hum from the drain. The glass remembers what the room forgets. The low hum from the drain was constant now, a deep thrum that resonated in your bones when you were in the bathroom. The whispers were gone, replaced by a sound that was harder to define, a wet, scraping sound, like something being dragged over rough stone far below. The metallic smell was overwhelming, acrid, tasting of rust and stagnant filth. The tiny dark particles were more numerous, clinging to the bottom of the sink bowl, resisting rinsing. The water itself had become a source of terror. Turning on the taps was an act of courage. The water was sometimes icy cold, sometimes steaming hot, with no control. Once, while running the shower, the water turned a disturbing shade of reddish-brown, thick and viscous, before quickly clearing. It felt like blood. The psychological state had deteriorated into a state of near-constant terror and detachment. The house felt alien, hostile. You spoke less, ate little. Your focus narrowed to the bathroom, the drain, the mirror. Reality felt thin, permeable. You started to doubt your own memories, questioning whether things had always been this way. The mirror was no longer just a reflection. It felt like a portal. The face looking back was definitively not just yours anymore. It was your shape, your features, but twisted by an internal malice, eyes glinting with cruel intelligence. Sometimes you saw its mouth move, forming words that were not yours, silent screams or silent commands that didn't reach your ears but echoed in your mind. The damp patch was immense now, covering half the bathroom wall, slick and dark, feeling like wet clay. You noticed faint, dark streaks within the moisture, like fingerprints pressed into the wall from the other side. There was a pressure emanating from the patch now, a subtle outward push that matched the feeling from the mirror. The obsession with the drain was absolute. You found yourself sitting on the floor in front of it, tracing the rust stains, listening to the scraping sound, feeling a strange pull towards the dark opening, a morbid fascination overcoming fear. It felt less like an object and more like a presence waiting. Was it you looking out, or something looking in? The scraping sound from the drain intensified, a relentless, grinding noise that drowned out everything else when you were near it. The air in the bathroom was thick with the metallic, foul scent, almost unbearable. The drain opening itself seemed darker, wider, a void that pulled the light into it. The supernatural event reached its horrifying peak. One evening, standing before the sink, drawn by the terrible scraping, the drain seemed to breathe. The air above it shimmered, distorted, and you felt a cold, wet draft exhale from the hole, carrying with it the smell of decay and something impossibly old. A low, resonant pulse began to emanate from the drain and the damp patch on the wall, a synchronous beat that vibrated through the floor, through your teeth, through your very bones. The psychological break was complete. Fear gave way to a terrifying calm, a sense of resignation and morbid curiosity. You looked at the mirror. The face in the glass was no longer yours. It was the twisted mockery, a grinning, dark reflection that seemed to pulsate with the same rhythm as the drain. It wasn't just reflecting the room, it was reflecting something else, something dark and formless shifting behind it, pushing forward. The motif of the mirror had culminated. It was no longer just a reflection, but an active, malevolent entity, or perhaps a horrifyingly accurate depiction of something that had taken root within you. The damp patch was weeping now, dark moisture trailing down the wall like tears, congregating in a sticky pool on the floor that smelled faintly of rust and old earth. The scraping from the drain grew frantic, a sound of claws scrabbling, of something desperate to emerge. You felt an overwhelming pull towards the sink, towards the drain, a dizzying urge to lean closer, to peer into the void, to listen to the final frantic message the mirror seemed to be silently screaming. The boundary between you and the reflection, between the room and the things pressing in, felt gossamer thin, ready to tear. You were no longer just watching. You were a part of the unfolding, the inevitable merging. How long can a skin hold its shape before something pushes through? The scraping faded. The hum ceased. Silence returned to the bathroom, but it was the silence of aftermath, heavy and absolute. The metallic scent lingered, a ghost on the air, but the overwhelming foulness was gone. The damp patch on the wall remained, a dark, stubborn stain, but it no longer wept. The pool on the floor had dried to a dark, sticky residue that felt strangely brittle underfoot. You stand in the quiet room, or perhaps you sit huddled in the corner. The memory of the scraping, the breathing, the face in the glass, burned into your awareness. The terror has receded, leaving behind an emptiness, a profound and bone-deep exhaustion. What happened? The question echoes in the quiet space, unanswered. Was it real? Or was it the final collapse of a mind under unbearable pressure, a descent into a self-made hell? The drain looks just like a drain now, a dark, ordinary hole. The mirror over the sink is just a mirror. Your reflection stares back, your own eyes wide and vacant, the face gaunt, but undeniably yours. There are no fleeting movements, no mocking grins. Just you. But something is different. You avoid the mirror anyway, a deep, primal aversion now etched into your being. You sometimes catch glimpses of your reflection in other surfaces, a window, a polished surface, and a faint, unsettling shimmer seems to pass over the image. A brief distortion that vanishes as quickly as it appears, a lingering echo. The damp patch on the wall serves as a constant, tangible reminder, a scar on the house or on your perception of it. It's just moisture, the logical part of your mind insists, but you know it's more. The silence in the house is different now. It feels watchful, waiting. The story is over, perhaps, but the residue remains, clinging to the air, to the walls, to the edges of your vision. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. In the quiet corners of the world, where the veil between what is and what was grows thin, stories unfold that defy explanation. They settle in the dust, echo in empty rooms, and sometimes they whisper from the dark. Tonight, we listen to one such story, a descent into a place where the shadows have eyes and the silence breeds sound, a place where water is not just water, but a conduit to something else entirely. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The air in the old house tastes of damp stone and forgotten time. It settles on the tongue, a faint mineral tang that seems to cling even after you swallow. You walked in seeking quiet, perhaps, or a refuge from the incessant noise of the outside world, but found instead a deeper, more pervasive silence, broken only by the sighing of old wood and the drip, drip, drip somewhere below. It's colder here than it should be, a chill that doesn't come from drafts, but feels pressed against your skin from all directions. There is a heavy stillness that presses against your chest, making each breath a conscious effort. You move through the rooms, dust motes dancing in the weak light filtering through grimy panes. Each step echoes, absorbed quickly by the aged walls. A large mirror hangs in the hallway, its surface cloudy with age and neglect, reflecting back a figure that looks strangely small and tentative against the vastness of the house. It doesn't seem to reflect the light so much as absorb it. You notice a faint, irregular pattern in the condensation forming on its lower edge, like tiny spreading fingers reaching across the glass. It's just old glass, you tell yourself, just dust and damp interacting in the cold. Yet, the pattern feels deliberate, too precise to be random. A shiver, unrelated to the temperature, traces a path down your spine. This house holds its breath, waiting for you to exhale. Perhaps the silence is not emptiness at all, but a packed, waiting presence, holding its breath, right alongside you. Seen. The dripping sound becomes a focal point, drawing you deeper into the house's core. It leads down into the low-ceilinged basement where the air is thickest with the scent of earth and decay. The walls weep slowly, streaks of mineral deposit like tear tracks. There, centered in the concrete floor, is a floor drain, its grate rusted and partially obscured by grime. The drip, you realize, isn't into the drain, but seems to originate somewhere within it. A faint, sucking noise accompanying each drop as if something is drawing the moisture inward. And beneath that, if you strain to listen, is another sound, barely perceptible at first. A low, constant murmur, like distant voices heard through thick walls. It is the sound of whispering, almost too soft to confirm, but undeniably there. You kneel by the drain, the chill seeping into your knees through your trousers. The whispers seem to rise with the damp air, formless and indistinct, just a texture of sound, like static given voice. The mirror in the hallway feels like it watches, even from this distance. When you glanced at it earlier, you thought you saw a fleeting shift in the cloudy reflection, a quickening in the condensation pattern before it returned to its slow creep. Doubt begins to bloom, a cold flower in your mind. Is the sound real, or is the silence playing tricks on you? The house is old. It makes noises, pipes settling, wind finding cracks. Yet this feels different. This feels intended. The sound is not just noise. It is a question asked in a language you are only beginning to understand, a secret kept just beyond your grasp. The whispers from the drain are no longer formless static. They gain clarity, focusing into discernible sounds, then fragments of words, then sentences unnervingly close to your ear, even when you stand meters away. They are personal, dredging up memories you had buried deep, moments of shame or regret you thought only you knew. They speak of the house, too, secrets of its past, of those who lived here before. Sometimes they make strange, cryptic demands, illogical commands whispered on the damp air. Kneeling beside the drain, you can feel the texture of the damp concrete floor through your fingertips. Rough, cold, perpetually wet. You catch a drop of water from the drain's lip on your finger, bringing it to your lips. It tastes metallic, like old blood mixed with something stagnant and unknown. As the whispers peak, a disturbing anomaly occurs in the nearby laundry sink. Water you just saw drain away shudders, then briefly pools and creeps back up the slope of the basin before receding again. On a small, grimy mirror hanging above the sink, condensation rapidly forms, swirling into bizarre, complex shapes that hold for a second before dissolving. Simultaneously, the temperature in the small room plummets, the cold becoming an ache in your bones. The secrets the drain tells twist in your mind. Are they yours? Are they fabricated? You grapple with a terrifying possibility. Your own mind is unraveling, feeding these whispers, or perhaps being fed by them. Looking at the sink mirror, your reflection seems subtly wrong, delayed by a fraction of a second. Or is it just the poor light? You notice a loose section of baseboard near the drain. Prying it gently reveals a small cavity in the wall. Tucked inside, brittle with age and moisture, is a folded newspaper clipping. The edges are water damaged, the print faded, but the headline is still discernible. Mysterious disappearance. Local man vanishes near old riverside property. The date is decades ago. The article speaks of a man last seen entering a property matching this one's description, specifically mentioning an old, abandoned pump house near the riverbend, where this drain likely leads. It notes an inexplicable flood in the basement shortly before his disappearance. Despite no heavy rain, it ends with the phrase, "The water took him." The whispers seem to sharpen as you read this, murmuring a name you don't recognize, linked to a time long past. "He heard it too," they hiss, but he answered. The mirror reflects your face, pale and drawn, but for a split second, it seems to show someone else behind you, their eyes wide with fear, a face you've never seen before. The entity in the drain is no longer whispering secrets. It is trying to impose them as reality. It speaks of the missing man from the newspaper clipping, as if you knew him, twisting shared histories you don't possess, weaving narratives where your life intersects with the house's dark past. The demands become more insistent, vague instructions to perform actions that make no sense, tied to objects or places in the house you've never noticed before. The perpetual dampness feels heavier, clinging to the air like a physical weight, making it hard to breathe normally. You find yourself running your hand over wet surfaces, tracing the unnatural lines in the condensation on windows and walls, seeking meaning in the patterns that form and reform. The sink mirror is worse now. It doesn't just delay your reflection. Sometimes it shows you standing slightly askew, or with an expression of pure, unreasoning terror that you don't feel, not yet. The psychological fracture deepens into paranoia. Are the memories the whispers conjure actually faint echoes of trauma, distorted by the house, or are they being planted wholesale? You start questioning every thought, every memory, every feeling that arises, wondering if it originates from you or from the drain. The ambiguous nature of the newspaper clipping becomes a torment. Is it proof of what happened, or just a coincidence seized upon by a decaying mind? You find yourself drawn back to the mirror, compelled to look, dreading what you might see. What if the reflection you see isn't you at all, but the person the house believes you to be? Or worse, the person it intends for you to become? The whispers are a torrent now, a cacophony of past voices and present demands, all seemingly emanating from the drain, but filling the entire house. They promise knowledge, peace, escape, in exchange for compliance with their bizarre, escalating requests. The atmospheric pressure feels immense, pressing in from all sides, thick with the smell of ozone mixed with decay. You find yourself standing before the sink mirror, transfixed. The glass ripples subtly, not like water, but like something alive beneath the surface. Your reflection is a distorted caricature, stretched and compressed, the features melting and reforming into shapes that vaguely resemble other faces. The man from the clipping, the figure seen fleetingly in the hallway mirror, faces you don't recognize but feel a terrifying familiarity with. This is the central uncanny event. The mirror is no longer a reflection, but a window, or perhaps a filter, showing the truth as the entity perceives it. Your sense of self fractures completely. Which reflection is real? Are any of them real? The moment of psychological break is complete. You doubt not just your memories, but your very identity. The mirror shows a version of you reaching out, not towards the glass, but through it, towards something unseen. An overwhelming sense of dread washes over you. The whispers weren't just telling you secrets. They were telling you who you were before you forgot. The distorted mirror image seems to smile, a wide, vacant expression that isn't yours. The air is thick with the scent of water and something else, something cold and ancient. The whispers coalesce into a single, piercing sound, a name that echoes in the deepest part of your being, a name that feels both utterly alien and terrifyingly familiar. It feels like a command you've been waiting your whole life to obey. The distorted reflection in the mirror begins to lift a hand, reaching not towards you, but towards itself, towards the drain visible dimly behind it in the mirror's warped world. The sound subsides, leaving behind a silence that feels deeper and more profound than before. The whispers are gone, or perhaps they have become internalized, a constant hum behind your thoughts. The intense cold retreats, replaced by the house's usual damp chill. You stand before the sink mirror, but the rippling has stopped. The glass is still cloudy, still marked by condensation, but the grotesque distortions are absent. Your reflection is your own again, though it looks haunted, the eyes wide and vacant, the face pale and drawn. The psychological residue is heavy. A profound sense of disorientation and loss lingers. What happened? What was real and what was delusion? The secrets the drain shared, the memories that felt both alien and familiar, cling like cobwebs in your mind, impossible to verify or discard. The questions hang in the air, thick as dust motes in the fading light. Was it a hallucination, brought on by the house's oppressive atmosphere, a break under stress? Or was it something truly ancient and malevolent residing in the water, in the deep earth beneath the floor? The newspaper clipping lies where you left it, a fragile piece of evidence that explains nothing and implies everything. The recurring motif of the mirror is now just glass, reflecting back only the surface. But the surface feels thinner than it did before. You find yourself avoiding mirrors, catching only glimpses of yourself in polished metal or dark windows, uneasy with what might momentarily appear. The house feels empty again, but it's a watchful emptiness. The drip, drip, drip has ceased. Only the persistent smell of damp earth and something else, something unnameable, remains. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. The whispering has shed its cryptic skin. It no longer invites or entices, it demands. The sound follows you now, not just from the single point of the bathroom drain, but a low, guttural chorus threaded through the walls themselves. It permeates the quiet, a constant, grating murmur that buzzes just at the edge of hearing, tightening the air. This influence has spread like a dark stain. The plumbing throughout the house has become an orchestra of agony. Pipes groan like old bones under immense pressure, even when no faucet is running. They rattle violently in the walls, a sudden, sharp clatter that makes you flinch. Water appears inexplicably, slow, deliberate drips from ceilings where no pipe should be, dark patches blossoming on wallpaper, seeping from baseboards as if the very foundation is weeping. The persistent dampness isn't just moisture. It resembles spreading stains that seem to shift and writhe, sometimes suggesting faint, monstrous shapes before collapsing back into mere discoloration. The air is thick and cold, saturated with the cloying smell of mildew and something deeper, fouler, like wet earth and slow decay. Surfaces under your fingertips feel clammy and slick, radiating an unnatural chill that sinks into the bone. The relentless sound of stressed pipes is a constant, grating noise, a sonic assault that wears away at your nerves, making it impossible to find peace. The supernatural is no longer confined to whispers in a drain. It is a physical pressure distorting the environment. Water drains slower everywhere now, sluggish and reluctant, swirling as if fighting an unseen obstruction deep within the earth. Lean your ear to a wall, and the metallic groans fade, replaced by a soft, steady sound, like labored breathing pulsing from within the structure of the house itself. And the reflections, they are everywhere now, and they are wrong. Not just in mirrors, but in the dark glass of window panes at night, in the polished surface of an old table, in the screen of a turned-off phone. They hold a depth that shouldn't exist, darker, deeper, as if looking into still, black water. Your own reflection is haggard, eyes shadowed and sunken, sometimes subtly distorted, a gaunt stranger wearing your face. And often, in the periphery of these reflections, you see a flicker of movement, a shadow detaching itself, suggesting a figure lurking just behind you in the room. Even when you know you are alone, you feel trapped, cornered by a siege you cannot see. The house itself seems hostile. Every groan of the pipes, a voice raised against you. Every damp patch, a spreading bruise meant to mark you. Paranoia is no longer a suspicion. It is the undeniable truth. The feeling of being hunted is constant, relentless. The guilt related to the secrets the drain whispered back then now feels like a heavy cloak, a justification for this haunting. Was it the knowledge itself that cursed you, or the listening? The whispers coalesce, no longer fragmented, but sharp, urgent, forceful. They slice into your thoughts, not with suggestions, but with demands. They offer cessation, an end to the siege. Give us, they hiss, a collective voice from the walls. The pipes, the air, something small, something precious, something vital. And in the dark reflection of the window, your gaunt face stares back, and for a terrifying instant, its mouth seems to open wider than yours could, shaping the silent demand. Perhaps the house wasn't haunted at all, but merely hungry. The line dissolves now, thin as wet paper, between what was solid and what the drain dictates. Water is everywhere, not just the bathroom floor, where the puddles shimmer with unnatural depth, but pooling in the living room, dark stains blooming across the carpet. It drips from the ceiling in the hallway, cold and heavy, even where there are no pipes, no apparent source. The whole house feels submerged in an unseen tide, a psychological ocean lapping at the foundations of your sanity. The sensory details are a scream building in the skull. There is the sound, the deafening roar of rushing water, a torrent tearing through unseen channels, though the air remains still, heavy with dampness. It isn't real, not truly, but it floods the ears, drowning out thought. The air is suffocating, thick and cold, carrying the scent of ancient, stagnant depths, pressing down on the chest. And the feel, a chilling wetness brushes against your skin, across your arm, the back of your neck, like unseen currents flowing around you, pulling. You are not alone in this flood. Something moves just beneath the surface of the perceived reality. Fear is a ghost of a memory. Now there is only fragmentation. You stare at your hands, slick with an invisible film of water, and wonder whose they are. What was your name? Where did you come from before this house, before the sound, before the drain? Time has no meaning. Is it day or night, yesterday or years ago? The psychological break is complete, a total unraveling of identity, threads of self dissolving into the pervasive dampness. The world is just water and sound and the cold touch of the unseen. The recurring motif of reflections reaches its terrifying zenith. They're no longer passive glass or metal surfaces. The mirror in the hall, the dark sheen on the floorboards, even the window panes, they are active, vibrant with unnatural light. They are not showing you as you are now, but visions, portals. In the mirror, you see the entity, not as a shadow, but a fluid, shifting shape of dark water and grasping limbs, trapped within the glass, pushing against it. In the puddle reflection, you see a moment from long ago, someone kneeling by a drain, head bowed in despair or prayer, the water rising around their ankles. Then it shifts, a flash of a possible future, a house submerged, silence heavy and deep. Your own reflection is the most horrifying. It is not yours anymore. One moment it shows you standing there, drenched in invisible water, eyes wide with a terror you can no longer feel. The next, it shows you dissolving, your outline blurring, flesh becoming indistinguishable from the swirling water behind it. Sometimes, it shows you becoming part of the shape in the mirror, a limb extending from its form, mirroring your own. You are being pulled, absorbed, becoming one with the grotesque entity. The whispers, faint beneath the roaring sound of water, are no longer demands, but a promise, quiet and inevitable. Join us. Return to the source. Become one with the ancient, dark water. There is no resistance left, only the chilling certainty that the reflection is showing the truth of what you are already becoming. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The house settles around you. It's an old house, full of the sighs and creaks that come with age. But tonight, it feels different, sharper. The air is still and cool, carrying the faint, persistent scent of damp earth, even though the windows are closed. You stand in the bathroom, a small tiled box that suddenly feels vast and empty. The fluorescent light above buzzes with a low, irritating hum that seems to vibrate deep in your bones. It's the drain that holds your attention, the circular metal grate in the shower floor. It shouldn't look remarkable, just dull steel, flecked with old soap residue. But tonight, it seems darker, deeper, as if the shallow cup beneath the grate extends down much further than it should. A bottomless well of shadow. You lean closer, the cold tile pressing against your knees. There's no sound coming from it, no trickle of water, no sigh of air. Only the buzzing of the light, the distant hum of the house settling, and the too loud beat of your own heart. You reach out a finger, hesitating just above the cold metal. A shiver, not from the temperature, traces a path up your spine. This drain, ordinary just yesterday, now feels like a mouth, a silent, waiting mouth in the floor. You look up, catching your reflection in the steamed-up mirror above the sink. Your face is pale, eyes wide. The person staring back looks like you, but there's a flicker of something else in her gaze, a dawning unease that feels alien, already starting to pull you away from yourself. Is it just the light? Just fatigue playing tricks? Or is the house beginning to show you something it has kept hidden? The silence from the drain is louder than any noise could be. It feels like a challenge. The silence persists, thick and heavy in the small room. You pull away from the drain, standing slowly, your joints protesting the stiffness that has suddenly claimed them. The air doesn't just smell damp now. There's an undercurrent, sour and vaguely metallic, that catches in the back of your throat. It tastes like something old and buried. You walk to the sink, running the tap, letting the water splash loudly, trying to drown out the unnerving quiet that has fallen over the drain. The water seems normal, clear and cold, but as it swirls towards the plug hole, you watch its movement. It hesitates for a fraction of a second before being sucked down. A tiny, almost imperceptible pause, as if the drain is holding its breath. You turn off the tap. The silence rushes back in, heavier than before. Your gaze drifts to the mirror again. The steam has cleared slightly, showing your reflection more clearly. She's still there, looking at you, but her expression is fixed, almost vacant, entirely unlike the fleeting fear you saw just moments ago. It's a disconnect, small but sharp, a hairline crack appearing in the image you know should be you. Doubt begins to creep in. A cold tendril wrapping around your thoughts. What did you see before? Was it just a trick of the light, or was it something else looking out? You touch the cool glass of the mirror, the surface smooth and solid, yet it feels like a thin veil. You press your palm against it, needing the tactile confirmation of its reality, needing to feel the solidity beneath your hand. But the reflection doesn't press back in quite the same way. It's a subtle difference, easily dismissed, yet it seeds a disturbing certainty deep within you. Something is off, fundamentally wrong, not just with the drain, but with the reflections, with the very fabric of the room. The quiet breaks, not with a sudden crash, but with a low, wet sound from the drain, a soft gurgle deep within the pipes that doesn't sound like water moving. It sounds like a throat clearing, a heavy, viscous sound that makes the fine hairs on your arms stand on end. You freeze, listening, straining to hear it again over the blood pounding in your ears. The burgle doesn't repeat immediately, but now there's something else. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper seems to rise from the dark opening, a breathy sound that's just at the edge of hearing, like wind over stone. You can't make out words, only a low, sibilant murmuring that fills the silence the gurgle left behind. The dampness in the air intensifies, clinging to your skin, making your clothes feel heavy. Beads of condensation form on the cold tiles, weeping like slow tears. You step back, away from the shower, your heart hammering against your ribs. This isn't just old house sounds anymore. This is deliberate. This is directed. You look at the mirror again, needing to see your own eyes, to anchor yourself in familiar reality. But the reflection is blurring, not with steam this time, but with a strange, dark haze that seems to bloom from within the glass itself. Her eyes are wide, yes, but also unfocused, looking past you, past the room, into something you cannot see. It's more than just a disconnect now. It's a clear sign of fracturing. The mirror isn't showing you anymore. It's showing the effect. It's showing you becoming what the whispers want. You feel a coldness spreading from the floor, seeping up into your bare feet, a bone-deep chill that no amount of warm air could ever dispel. The murmuring from the drain grows slightly louder, a collective sigh of something patient and hungry. The whispers grow, no longer faint, but an insistent, overlapping chorus of sibilant sounds from the drain. They don't form coherent words. but they carry meaning heavy with implication and ancient hunger. It's like listening to 1,000 mouths speaking at once, just below the threshold of language. The gurgling returns, more frequent now, a deep, resonant sound that seems to shake the floor beneath you. The unnatural dampness has intensified, coating the walls in a thin, slick film. Tiny rivulets of dark, foul-smelling water begin to seep from the grout lines around the drain, spreading outwards like dark veins. The sour metallic smell is overpowering now, thick enough to taste. You press your hands over your ears, trying to block out the sound, but the whispers seem to bypass your eardrums, resonating directly inside your skull. They coil around your thoughts, whispering doubts, twisting memories. You start to question everything. Did you leave the tap running earlier? Did you spill something? Or was this always here, waiting for you to notice? Your sense of reality begins to fray, loosening like a thread pulled from a worn cloth. You stumble backwards, your foot hitting the wall. You glance at the mirror, hoping to see the familiar anchor of your own terrified face. But the reflection is distorted, wavy, as if seen through murky water. And in the background of the reflection, behind where you stand, there is a fleeting, dark shape that doesn't belong in the room. It's gone as quickly as it appears, a flicker in your peripheral vision, reflected back at you. But it lodges in your mind, a terrifying certainty. The mirror isn't just showing you the effect anymore. It's showing you the source. Or perhaps it's showing you the reflection of the source, hiding just out of sight in your actual reality. The air around the drain feels impossibly cold, colder than ice, a void where warmth should be. The whispers become a demanding roar inside your head. The gurgling reaches a frantic crescendo, a hungry gulping sound that echoes in the small room. The whispers are no longer just sound, they are pressure, a physical weight pressing down on you, pushing into your mind. The air is thick with the foul smell, the dampness a cloying, suffocating blanket. Dark water wells up slightly from the drain cover, stagnant and foul, before being sucked back down with a wet, violent gasp. It feels like the house itself is breathing, ragged and desperate, through this single point in the floor. You fall to your knees, overwhelmed by the sensory assault, the fear a blinding panic that threatens to consume you whole. Memories flash before your eyes, jumbled and out of sequence, interspersed with images that don't belong to you. Glimpses of dark, damp spaces and echoing emptiness. You can't distinguish between what is real and what is being forced into your mind. The psychological fracture tears wide open. You feel yourself splitting, your consciousness fragmenting under the pressure. You look up, dazed, catching your reflection in the mirror one last time. The glass is no longer just reflecting, it's absorbing. The dark haze from before has solidified, pooling within the surface like ink spreading through water. Your face is barely visible within it. Pale and indistinct, merging with the encroaching darkness. Your eyes are 2 points of desperate light, swallowed by the void. The reflection is no longer you. It is a negative, an absence, a confirmation that something is being taken, piece by piece. The image shimmers, a distorted, watery surface where a solid reflection should be. Is it showing you what you are becoming? Or is it showing what is looking back through the glass, seeing you vulnerable? The drain gives one final, enormous gulp, And then, abruptly, the sound ceases. The immediate, overwhelming presence of the drain entity recedes. The frantic gurgling stops. The whispers fall silent, leaving behind an unnerving void where the clamor had been. The unnatural dampness might even begin to dry, leaving faint tide marks on the tiles. But the horror is not over. It is now deeply ingrained, a root that has found soil within you. The absence of sound is terrifying. The silence no longer peaceful, but heavy with the memory of noise, pregnant with the threat of return. The residual smell of mildew and that sour metallic tang lingers, clinging to the air. To your clothes, a phantom scent of decay. Cold spots remain, patches of impossible chill that refuse to dissipate, marking the places where its touch was strongest. You look at the drain itself. It is just a metal grate in the floor, innocuous and silent, yet forever changed in your perception. It is not just a drain, it is a mouth, closed now, but still capable of opening. The supernatural element has become latent, a dormant threat that sleeps beneath the surface. The water, when you finally manage to turn on the tap again, still feels wrong, colder than it should be, its movement hesitant, as if remembering the pull of something vast below. The psychological break is permanent. You are left fractured, haunted, unsure if what you experienced was real or a descent into madness you initiated yourself. Memories are still jumbled, scenes from the encounter bleeding into moments of mundane life, making the world feel subtly alien, out of sync. The symbolic thread of reflections leaves a final, chilling impression. You can no longer look at your reflection without seeing a flicker of the drain's darkness in your own eyes. A shadow that wasn't there before. You avoid all reflective surfaces, catching glimpses of your distorted self only in sudden, unwanted flashes. A window pane at dusk, a polished tabletop. The resolution is unsettling and ambiguous. Did you escape? Is the entity gone, or just waiting, patient and hungry? Are you truly you anymore, or fundamentally changed by the encounter, marked by its touch? The story ends not with a resolution, but a lingering unease, a quiet terror that the whispers could return, or that they never truly stopped inside your head. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet.